Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside, back to the bubble editions of the episode. Joining us today is Chris. He is the owner of High Gravity Supply Company.
That's right, yeah. Sorry, my dog's walking around the background here.
All good. No, we had one of our previous interviews, somebody's child jumped into the shot with us. So, we're a PG show, so that's the way we like to keep it. And we're pet friendly. We love animals too, so. Awesome. So what's the story? What made you create High Gravity Supply?
Yeah, I mean, like it. I have a little blurb on. Sit down, dude. Dogs just want to be in your laps all the time. Yeah. I mean, I have a little blurb on my website. Counting back, I guess, kind of 2017 is where the infancy of it sort of started. I've always been a pretty entrepreneurial minded guy. I love beer, and finding a way to kind of put those two things together and create some sort of business around it is kind of been a lifelong dream of mine. I'm sure, like many other people that are really big beer nerds and home brewers, I always aspired to open up my own brewery. I would still love to do that at some point in time. And this whole thing just sort of started as a way of me sort of making money to, build some funds. If I can run this e-commerce business doing selling beer apparel, I figure I could probably raise some money to start for some startup capital for a brewery at some point. Initially, I'd started with just a single T-shirt. I just thought it was kind of fun when I went to beer festivals. I'd make these sort of one-off T-shirts. I made a T-shirt that has the province Ontario, says Ontario Craft Beer on it. Mm-hmm. I made a bunch of really kind of ridiculous shirts prior to that, and I'd wear, I'd make a one-off. I'd go to this place in Toronto called Toronto Tees, and they'd print off a one-off shirt for like $35. And I wore this, I did about 3-4 designs and ended up with this Ontario Craft Beer T-shirt. And I wore that to a couple different beer festivals kind of in the GTA area, rib festivals, and, where they had beer and ribs together, which is the greatest thing on the entire planet.
For sure.
I'm sure most anybody will agree with that. And I had this T-shirt and everyone kept asking me about it. They're like, hey, where can I get that shirt? Where'd you get it from? And I just, I was telling people it's still one-off. I just kind of goof around and make silly shirts. And everyone said, where can I get one of those? So I started thinking about it. I had been doing beer blogging for a number of years prior to that on my primary Instagram account, A Tale on Every Pint. So I just sort of came up with this little Shopify shop called Pint Size Shop. And I sold 2 T-shirts initially. One was the Ontario Craft Beer T-shirt, and I had another one that said Beer and Tacos. And then soon after, that one didn't sell that many, obviously. I still believe in it though. And then the second shirt I kind of designed on my phone was a shirt that said Citra on it. And I started working with these designs and stuff, and people dug what I was doing. It was kind of cool. It was a whole uncharted territory for me. Being a creative person, someone who's very artistic. I enjoy music. I enjoy creating stuff and artwork and stuff like that. It gave me kind of a new little creative outlet to kind of bring creativity and beer and my home brewing love and all that kind of stuff together into a little business. So, and then that's sort of where it started.
Awesome. I usually do this at the top of the show. I forgot. We're sharing our virtual beer together. Let the viewers know what you're drinking.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to represent my local boys here, the good guys from Third Moon.
Great guys from Third Moon.
Fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about these guys. If you want to talk more about Third Moon after, I am more than happy to. This is one of their latest releases that actually just came out this week. Super, super excited to give this one a try. It's another double IPA. Anything with hops or big pastry stouts in it, they're the only people you should be buying stuff from. So,
well, since we are talking Ontario Craft, I have from the People's Pint.
Yeah.
Goldie Boat. So previous interview with them when I thankfully made it out to Toronto. Great crew there. Love the brewery cat. So if you're in Toronto, check them out. And let's do a virtual toast.
Oh, wait, hang on. I got to pour mine up here.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, ironically, Doug, who's one of the main guys in People's Pint, he was one of my teachers. I did a Prud'homme course.
Okay.
And Doug was one of the, let me get this up on the camera.
Yeah.
And Doug was one of the guys that taught the Prud'homme course. So I kind of knew him a little bit beforehand.
Very cool.
So I got a shout out to Craft Beer Days.
Another previous interview.
Sorry,
it keeps going.
I plug everybody. Come on, everybody's good dudes in this industry. So
I mean, I think at this point, looking through your website, I've actually interviewed everybody up to you finally now. So
that's a challenge. I got to find more people.
I still need to interview the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies, but I don't have the multi-person Zoom going yet. So we'll go from there. So as we say on this show, it's a toast.
Toast.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good afternoon English ale.
I'm a big fan of English ales. Anything like British based, like if it's Scottish ales, English ales, even like stuff in Irish ales and stuff like that. I really like those kind of beers.
Yeah, I've been getting into the ESBs recently.
So yes. Have you ever been to the UK before?
I've never left North America, unfortunately.
So. If you go to the UK, you have to try anything that they have there. That's like specifically old school brewing on cask that's where it's at. Especially if you like ESBs, they don't taste the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's total. Well, I mean, just the water profile alone out there is completely different than ours. So it is something to look forward to, and we'll talk beercations later on. But when it came down to the business, like there's a story, there was some minor difficulties. What were some roadblocks and difficulties you ran into creating your brand?
I mean, early on, I don't think I really envisioned anything big out of it. I just kind of want, the people that asked me for, where can I buy that shirt? I just kind of wanted to give them a platform to, hey, buy a shirt. I didn't really care about making money. I just want people to have a good time and have a shirt that sparks conversation and stuff like that, right? I think pretty early into it though, probably the biggest thing that happened, and actually documented it on the story as well. There's another, and I'll use air quotes on this beer brand. That actually completely ripped off the one design that I had done, the design that I had made, my own piece of art. They actually ripped it off completely, and they were selling it on their website, and that was probably the biggest hurdle early on. There was a pretty long internet flame war that happened after that. I don't think I've ever had to put on the troll hat before, but this was an appropriate occasion where I had to, and I called them out on it, as well as a number of other business practices that they had where, without diving too deep into it, they're basically a quote unquote beer brand where they don't create anything of their own. They just sort of have this mentality of using other people's stuff and whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting a line of dialogue with one of the guys from the place, and they eventually seceded to me and said, well, you know what, you've been using this longer. And I'm like, damn right, because that's my original design. You guys have been selling it. So eventually they dropped it. And that was kind of a bit of an epiphany for me. And I was thinking, like, these guys that are kind of a bigger shop are trying to squash me. And it was difficult, right? So I started thinking, you know what, if I'm going to do this, and I really like the business side of it too. And I like the design side of things, and I liked interacting with people and talking to people about these shirts and stuff. So I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it properly and do it right. So I decided to rebrand and kind of take a name that's a deep beer nerd cut.
Yeah.
So high gravity, like if guys that are home brewers, they understand what that term is right away. And instead of being pint size shop, which I thought sounded like a small little thing. So I didn't want to come across like some small brand that was easily getting crushed by some other brand.
Yeah.
So I went with something big, and High Gravity Supply Company kind of came out of that.
Very cool. Like you said, it's for the beer nerds, and obviously your site is focusing on the more craft beer side of things than, obviously your macros, which our show, we say drink craft, not crap. So it's that's what it is. And interviewing people like yourself, so in Quebec, where I live, we have the convenience of actual beer stores. So I have a previous interview with the beer store, and I've asked him about, what were some difficulties like getting past the grocery stores, because the grocery stores can sell craft beer here now too. So
really, okay, yeah. That's almost like a flip side of the way it is here in Ontario, right?
Yeah. We it's not the LCBO, it's the SAQ. Well, you've been to Montreal.
The SAC Independers, and
the convenience you guys have over us is your breweries are allowed to deliver. Ours are not. So that's
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that.
No, that's something that desperately needs to change. And a lot of us are looking into from the craft beer nerds to, the people in the industry. We're looking to maybe all get together and being vocal and loud with our government and saying, let this happen. We're under a pandemic. You obviously we need to keep the economy alive. You need to make money. We want to spend money. Let us do this. So.
Especially in like kind of support local business mentality, I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think that one of the good things I can only speak for Ontario, obviously, but I think one of the really good things that's going to come out of this pandemic is the ability for places to open up those independent bottle shops, which I think we've really been lacking here since the whole beer industry has just been basically a monopoly of the LCBO or the beer store here in Ontario. And I have these a lot of craft breweries that can sell direct and they can deliver in Ontario, which is great. But why can't guys like you and why can't we open up our own bottle shop? And I'm glad to see that stuff is sort of shifting a bit. So I'm hoping that post-pandemic that stuff sticks around. So
I've seen it's craft batch.
Small batch,
small batch, and then there's bodega I saw online. So hopeful future interviews.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you remember how you discovered craft beer?
Yeah, I'll really date myself. When I was I would have been 19 at the time. I got a job at so I came out of a little rewind on me. I came out of about a 12-year stint in the food and service industry, working in bars and nightclubs and pubs and whatever you name it, whatever that kind of fits within that bubble. I sort of worked within. My starting point was at a pizza place in the town that I grew up in Aurora called Pure Pizza Company. And they hired me as a server and I wasn't a great server. So they said, you're good with people. Why don't you go work at the bar? And I said, sure, why not? I've never worked at a bar before. And I got introduced to this rep who worked for this brewery called Sleeman's. And this guy pulled me aside and he said, look, here's what we do. Here's our history. Here's our story. We used to brew beer for all these guys that were like rum runners and guys that were like, had speakeasies and stuff like this. They had this really cool history. I can't remember all of it off the top of my head, but they had this really cool history taught me about. And they said, look, these are the three or four beers you're going to carry on tap. You got our lager, you got our honey brown, you got this. I can't remember exactly what they were. And the guy, we just sat down and he poured a glass of each one. He said, taste this. What do you think? And I said, oh, it's beer. I didn't know anything, right? And he really sat down and kind of gave me a little education on it. And then that sort of sparked my interest in things. And from that, I went on to go into bartending school and I learned about cocktails and mixology and blah, blah, blah. And I've really been into the whole beer scene for quite a while, like as a fanboy. And I think I really started putting the pedal to the metal probably in maybe 2010, 2011 when I started homebrewing. And then that was just a whole different world, so.
More flavors are coming out. Ontario and Quebec and Alberta. I know the craft beer scene has just exploded the last couple of years. So it's getting difficult to visit all these places because I want to spread the love, but there's only so much money I make during the day. It's to spread the love.
That's very true. And I think it's we're now at that tipping point where it's like, oh, new brewery opens, let's go and support them and do everything. But there's so much diversity, like coast to coast in Canada. And I was in Vancouver a year ago and I had a really hard time going to 6 breweries. It was a big, like I had to really narrow it down to 6 that I really wanted to go. That, you work in proximity, quality beer, the hype factor, all that kind of fun stuff. I think we're sort of at that tipping point now where the breweries that aren't they're not paying as much attention to the detail, they're not paying as much attention to the end customer and stuff like that. I think they're going to start losing, and I think they're going to start seeing some of these places go belly up. So that's just my opinion.
No, for sure, especially with the pandemic, it's the strongest will survive.
Absolutely,
that's pretty much what it is. So we're mentioning kind of collabs now. You've collabed with former interview Craft Beer Bailey, Mary Bailey, T. Drinks. You had the Black Lives Matters T-shirt come out. And you're working on an Indigenous. Where do all these collabs come from? Who said, like, did they contact you? You contacted them and say like, hey, let's get together, let's make a T-shirt and let's do some stuff for charity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the gifts of 2020 is that because I've had, I've been at home so much and there's been so much stuff going on in the social side of the world and our society. I think it's been great to do so many things that are more for raising awareness and funds for social injustice than it is for other things like that. And I kind of wanted to run this t-shirt apparel label as a brewery, and breweries do collaborations. So I want to do collaborations too. So I'm backing up. I mean, the first collaboration we really did that was a big one was with Mary Bailey. She's an amazing artist, outstanding. We had a amazing simpatico right from the start. She'd send me artwork. I'd work on artwork, send it back to her. She'd give me her criticism, send it back to me. So we've had a great relationship with that. I've literally only talked to her on the phone, I think once, maybe twice at this point in time. It's just a great sign of a good working collaborative, creative relationship. I cannot say enough great things about her. I actually initially approached her about that, and I said, because she does a lot of doodles and stuff like that, she's always posting online. I said, have you ever thought about doing a shirt or something like that? Or like, and I just said, send me one of your drawings. Let's see what we come up with. And it just sort of naturally evolved into what it is now. So that's been really, really cool. And then the fact that I was able to do that Black Lives Matter collaboration, and I know Ed and I, T Dot Drinks, we're kind of in the local beer scene here. We know each other. We've hung out a bunch of times. We have the Trini blood roots. So he's from Trinidad, my dad's from Trinidad. So we immediately bonded over that and everything, which was great. And I mean, at the time that the Black Lives Matter movement really kicked off and got started, I think it was a perfect opportunity for people that were in the craft beer community to make a statement about stuff. I mean, we're I don't know how to describe it. I mean, like it was a good time to make a statement, and I think we had the right people at the right time with the right message to send. I guess that's a good way of saying it. So, I mean, I brought Ed in on this. He's been very vocal about what's been happening with Black Lives Matters and equality and things like that. And he had the voice, Mary had the artwork, and I think together it was just amazing. So the final numbers of that, we actually just sold the final Black Lives Matter T-shirt about a week or two ago. The project dragged on a little bit longer than I wanted it to. So we've got all the final numbers and everything. So there's a good chunk of change that we're going to be donating to 2 different causes. Awesome. From the proceeds for that shirt. So
that's fantastic here, and I love hearing that kind of stuff. Whenever I'm usually working at a company, a previous job I would do Movember every year and just do half and halves. And so, like, even for something as big as Movember is, every dollar counts towards every charity. So especially if you're doing the research about the charity and you're not donating to something where the CEO is going to be driving a Bentley every week, if you're actually donating to places where their overhead is only like 20% and less. So
yeah, absolutely. I used to think of those charities where it's like, at Christmas time, I'm going to put $50 or $100 into that little clear ball with Grandpa standing there ringing the bell. I'm like, I'm going to make a difference. But like of that $50, $100, maybe $2 actually goes into charity. And but yeah, I think that's I think everything just sort of came together at the right time with that. But
no, and it's great. And having spoken with Ed and Mary Bailey in the past, they're both fantastic human beings that I truly I actually got to meet Mary Bailey in person. However brief it was.
I've never even met her.
it was very brief because we went to Flying Monkeys for the interview.
Yeah.
And then they were gracious enough to offer us lunch before our long trip back to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then she came over and she just talked to us real quick. We all masked up because we want people to wear masks right now, obviously, to try and get this in control. Masked up, spoke a bit, had a beer. She was working, so she obviously wasn't drinking with us. And it's like, oh my God, I finally met one of the many, many people I'm speaking with on with this technology, which is great because without this stuff, who knows where the shows would be? Who knows where these movements would go? Like, we got to be thankful for the technology we have right now. So, getting to work from home, a majority of Canadians are working from home right now. That can, so it's perfect.
I think honestly, in the current state of things, the fact that you and I can hang out like this, we may not have been able to do this quite so easily. I mean, I try and when I go to Montreal, I usually DM all the Montreal people I know and usually say, hey, who wants to meet up for a beer? I want to go to this spot and that spot and everything. So I was fortunate enough that the last time that I was in Montreal, which was, I believe, around this time last year, a friend of mine here from Toronto, Robin, who has he's one of the 2 guys in the 4 Elements podcast, craft beer podcast. He happened to be in town working, training people for his day job. And then we met up with Beer Brit Montreal,
Mike.
Montreal, Mike. Yeah. So the 3 of us met up, it was so random, and we had an awesome night hanging out together. We went to all these breweries and stuff. So yeah. Yes. I miss the in-person thing and being able to taste beer and talk about flavors and stuff with people and just be a big beer geek in person.
Even then, it's like on a monthly basis, we'd get together. I get together with the guys and we do a beer tasting. And it's just like, this is killing me. Like, I want to break out all my taster glasses and pour us lights, but I can't. So it's frustrating, but humanity was due for a plague, I guess, because the last one was 100 years ago. And I mean, you're speaking of when you went to Vancouver, I mean, you could only really end up hitting like 6 breweries. The same thing happened to me. I was in New York for their last American Thanksgiving to go see an NFL game. I went into Queens and I'm like, I don't have time to visit all these places. Just there's more breweries than time exists on the planet. So
where did you get to by chance? Did you get to Brooklyn Brewery by chance?
I missed Brooklyn. I went to McKellar.
Okay, nice.
Bridge and Tunnel, which was fantastic. The owner actually sat down with me and my elderly father to talk beer with us while he was decorating the place for Christmas, which was funny because he's on a ladder and he's like, "Yeah, I hope you enjoy this beer. It's really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, thanks.
I hope you don't fall off a ladder. What are you talking about?
How about you do your job and don't worry about these random Canadians who showed up at your brewery?" Where else? Evil Twin, nice. Queen Brew. I can't remember exactly everywhere. It's just like Finback. I went to Finback. And then there was this small German restaurant in like a shopping mall that I went to. So it was a fun day. I was hoping to get back there this year to do interviews with breweries there, but time will tell. We'll be back. Yeah. The world will be back open in probably about a year and a half. So
yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Hopefully. So you're obviously a company, e-commerce store. Do you have any kind of have you met any celebrities through it or any even beer celebrities? Like, let's say Mirella Amato, she's Canada's Master Cicerone. Do you have any stories like that or anything funny you've had to deal with through the site?
I think a lot of the people that I end up connecting with, I think I haven't really had any like celebrity endorsements for that. I mean, it's a beer brand. Unless you're a big beer nerd, you're probably not going to understand stuff. But I've tweeted at guys like I've tweeted at Chris Bosch, who not a lot of people know is a big home brewer. I'm from the NBA. I've tweeted at Barack Obama, who's also a home brewer. If you guys don't know about Barack Obama and the White House, he hired one of his chefs just to brew him his beers. How. The guy's the coolest president of all time.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't know if I have any really, really big celebrity sort of endorsement or contacts with that. I think for distance-wise, I think the impact of a business, I find for the most part, for what I do, is mostly people in the Ontario sort of capture net. We overflow a lot into Quebec and then a lot into Vermont, which is awesome because Vermont has a great beer scene. Even though I've never been there, but I have a lot of good beer mule friends that bring stuff home from Vermont for me, so I can't complain about that. But I mean, we made some crazy connections with people. Like we've sold some shirts like for the Black Lives Matter movement. I sold some shirts to people in Australia. Sold some shirts to people in England. South Africa, like some really wacky places that like we, and I mean, I say we, it's like 90% myself. The rest of the work is done by my wife. I don't run ads and stuff like that. We just, everything's sort of word of mouth. And I was really, really surprised to have guys from England reaching out to me like, "Hey, I want one of your shirts." I'm like, "I don't even know how to ship one to you. Let me, I gotta figure this out really quick." And and I've got to connect with some people from places that I would probably never get to have those conversations with unless I had this business, right? So, I mean, instead of having celebrities, I'll say I've got to have great connections with people from all different walks of life and all different places on the planet. So,
no, it is fantastic, and it is because of things like Instagram and on a lesser level, Facebook. I don't find as many there's many beer geeks on Facebook as there are on Instagram, obviously, because you could kind of more so straight bubble down to people you want to see on Instagram, where you don't have to deal with your, let's say, racist uncle from who's like 100 years old. You don't have to deal with them on Instagram because they don't kind of get the technology. So it's created quite the thing. I've got to meet Beer Brit, the Beer Broders. I've met a bunch of Montreal Instagrammers. It's fantastic hanging out with Jordan. He's the brewer at Brewtopia, because he just saw us and he's like,
is he the new brewer that just took over there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's cool, man. Yeah.
So, meeting all these people through this, and if it weren't like it is, if it's not for the technology, if it's not for me actually stepping up and getting out of my little bubble of people to try and meet new people, this show doesn't happen. So, and I don't meet people like yourself, and I look forward to picking up some merch when I have a chance. So,
yeah, awesome. I mean, I think social media has become that new. Like, I'm the kind of guy, I have no problem going to bars by myself. I sit at the bar, I talk to the bartender, I talk to the guy beside me, I talk to the guy over here. And I think social media has kind of become that new version of it's a virtual bar, like you and I can share a beer. We're not even in the same province, but we can talk about stuff we love and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And that sort of becomes that new in-person social circle of it. So
it's great, but you're like myself, you want to get back to a bar and actually meet people.
I can't wait
again. So Yeah, no, as soon as I get the go ahead and it's like, okay, pandemic's winding down, go have a pint with a friend. And I'm getting my videographer Phil and we're hitting a few pubs downtown or pubs or brew pubs or whatever, but we're getting beer and that's it. Like, so it's, I look forward to some sense of normalcy coming. So awesome.
Yeah, whatever that new normal is, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to like say this, but there's drastic reality coming to those who don't want to take vaccines. That companies will start saying, "Are you vaccinated? No, then you can't come in my building. Leave." So
yeah, I've already heard about that in the airline industry. They're talking about that there's going to be a stamp in your passport now that says you've had your vaccination and you're allowed to get on a flight, right? So
Ticketmaster's already said we need a proof of a negative COVID test or vaccination record. So this is going to be a reality, and I'm more than willing to roll up my sleeve when I have the opportunity to.
100%. And it's one of these things where it's like, if you get a vaccination, it's not just for your own protection, it's for the people that are around you. It's for your family, it's for your friends, the people that you see at work every day, because you don't want to spread, like, this is it's bananas because you can't see you can't really see who's sick all the time. You don't know. I would hate to be the person that's at the responsibility of that has the responsibility of finding out that someone that I knew, that I was close to, that we hung out and we had we went to some bar and had chicken wings or something, and you got sick because of me, right? So I don't know. It's a tough situation that we're all in right now.
Oh, and everybody I speak to, we're all responsible adults. I'm in my early 40s. You sound like you're in your late 30s.
Early 40s.
Early 40s. So yeah, we're at least educated enough to realize, like, let's not be selfish. Let's not get anybody else sick. Let's keep it in the family if I have to. So
this is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, I've unfortunately only got to try 5 of their beers because that's what they gave us for. Hey, thanks for interviewing us. Here's free beer.
It's impossible to keep up with their releases.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Yeah, my sorghum's the same here. I can't keep up, and they only sell them in 4-packs, and I'm like, just sell me a mixed pack, please. That's all I want. So,
yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned home brewing. How long have you been into that? What have you made?
I've been homebrewing since Christmas of 2011, I think it was. I got into it. My brother knew I was big into beer. Like, hey, try this beer, try that beer, and he's like, "You're an idiot because you're just you're drinking too much stuff. I can't keep up with you." So he bought me this. A Mr. Beer kit, and it came in this gigantic like Santa sack. And I opened it up, and I was like, "Okay, I can make my own beer. This is crazy. I'm gonna try it." And I lived in a condo downtown in Toronto at the time. And I like go through the steps, and it's if you're really familiar with, if everybody out there listening is familiar with brewing, it's basically like a liquid malt extract kit. So you boil the water, you open the can, you pour the can in, you stir it up, and you add some hops, and all of a sudden it's basic works. Yep. And then you put it in the fermenter, and then I remember thinking like 2 weeks later, I fill up the bottles, and wait another week or so and tried. I'm like, holy crap, I just made beer. Like, how did I do this out of a can? So, and that really just sort of sparked my interest in beer. And ironically, it really kicked me off on this. Like, I don't like to read. I really don't. And it wasn't until I figured out, wow, beer is cool, I want to learn more about it, that I realized I can't read stories, but I could read technical things. And I started reading like every beer book I could get my hands on, how to build recipes. I read stories about Sam Calgione from Dogfish Head, the guys from like Sierra Nevada. Like, I read everybody's history, and then I got into clone beers and I read about how people build recipes. And I went deep on the Bible. Everyone, the Beer Brewer's Bible. You know what that's called?
Yeah.
How to Brew, John Palmer. Yeah. So I went deep on the Bible. Yeah, it's stuff like that. So I mean, I can thank my brother. He really kicked me off for homebrewing, and unfortunately opened the door wide open for me learning about this stuff and driving my wife crazy and stuff like that. So
spending money,
spending money on things. I'm like, I just need to have this. It's gonna make my beer like 10%, or I have to have this thing. So
yeah. It's a great collectible hobby that you get to enjoy in the end. So.
There's always that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio from that movie, and he's laughing, and he's got the drink in his hand. And I told my wife that if I brew my own beer, I'll sit.
Yeah, that's Django. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Django Unchained.
Yeah. When it came to your blog, what was your like kind of inspiration and style behind like what brought you to your creating the blog for people?
I going back way earlier, but like pre-Instagram, before I was doing Instagram, I was beer blogging on what was that Google platform called now? It was a free Google platform.
WordPress?
Blogspot.
Blogspot. Okay. Yeah.
So I was blogging on Blogspot, and it's probably still out there somewhere. I logged all the different beers I was making, and I'd try a recipe, and then I'd write here's my brew day notes, here's my tasting results, and then I'd do the same recipe again. And I had one or two recipes that I worked probably a dozen times each, and that's all logged in there. And then I kind of got into Instagram and started blogging, like reviewing beers and going deep on stuff there. And now the blog and the website is still sort of in its infancy. I'm trying to do a weekly update. I have some stuff I'm going to push out later tonight too. So I'm trying to go do a tasting notes section on stuff that I've got a ton of bottles sitting in my cellar. So instead of just being a greedy guy and collecting everything and hoarding it, I'm like, you know what, maybe every Sunday I crack one bottle. So last Sunday I cracked a bottle from Reverence Barrel Works, which is a phenomenal brewery here in Cambridge. If you have a chance to check them out, they're really, really cool. They literally put everything into a barrel, which is like, you put everything in a barrel and then serve that on nitro, and I'm pretty sure no matter what the recipe is, it's going to be awesome.
So, how old is Reverence? Because my sister she only moved this year, but she was living in Cambridge, and I was there 3 years ago, and that place wasn't there. So
I'm probably not the right guy to ask. I feel like they're fairly new, within maybe 2-3 years.
Okay.
But they're a great place. Unfortunately, they had a break-in where some politely put morons broke in and stole a bunch of beer in a computer, and that was whatever, crackheads. But their beers are really nice. They do some really cool stuff, like they'll take used, like spent grapes from the Niagara regions, and they'll use those to age a beer in Pinot Noir barrels, and they're really, really cool in the way that they build beers out and stuff like that. So definitely check them out. They're worth it. Yeah.
I'll have to get back out there. Now that my sister's living in, Kitchener's not that far from Cambridge. The last time I was visiting my sister, I got my brother-in-law into craft beer, who was not happy about it because now he just can't sit at home and drink crap. So it's like we hit Wellington, not Blood Brothers, the Brothers. Two brothers.
Yeah. The guys on the bicycle. That's their logo. Yeah.
Fixed Gear. We hit a bunch of breweries, and he's like, "You got me into good beer." And my sister's like, "Our beer bill is much more expensive now." I'm like, "Hey, just because I introduced you to flavor doesn't mean you have to continue doing that." I got now he's 77, but I got my 75-year-old father into drinking craft beer. They're like, beer could have flavor. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to just drink Labatt 50 and Coors Light all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same beer, prohibition beer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's great. So it's awesome, and I gotta get back out there, kind of on a beercation. Speaking of, here's the caveat I add: when it's safe to drive is safe, obviously, but it's when it's safe to either maybe get back to the U.S. or getting that cylindrical tube and travel the world somewhere. What's a beercation you haven't done that you want to go?
I would like to. I can think of two things that are immediately come to mind. One, I'm half German. I love all German beers, and I love all the old school European stuff. I was planning for my 40th birthday, which was just this past summer, that I was planning to go to Oktoberfest. That's always been on. I mean, if you're a beer person, that has to be on your beer list. I mean, whether it's it has to be somewhere in the top 5 or top 10. You have to go to an authentic Oktoberfest.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to go and do that, and just wear lederhosen, eat pretzels, drink beer, and sing songs all day. That'd be awesome. I think also close to the top of that too would be going to Ohio to visit the BrewDog facility there, where they have the BrewDog Hotel. I lived in Scotland for about three-ish years or so. My wife is from there, so we actually only moved back to Canada about 4 years ago now. But I was a big BrewDog guy, and I never got to go up to Ellen in just north of Scotland, where their brewery is. But they opened their only brewery here in Ohio, mm-hmm. and they've got that big the beer hotel there, where your hotel room looks into the brewery and stuff. Yeah. and they've made it a whole experience around kind of being involved in the process and being able to watch the guys working and doing the brew cycles and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely on it. I would love to go back to Montreal again, but I think probably if I had the option to, not Montreal, sorry, of course I'd like to go back to Montreal again. You guys have an amazing beer. Why wouldn't I want to go there? I'd like to go back to Vancouver too, to check out some more places there. But I think if there was if someone said, hey, you could go anywhere and do anything right this exact second, I would probably be Vermont. And I'd want to do there's so much good stuff in that little sliver between the mountains in Vermont, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's they're up to 63 breweries in Vermont. That's like, there's one that whenever you go to Burlington, so my folks have a place, a summer home near Plattsburgh.
Yep.
So whenever I go to Burlington, I would take the ferry, and to go to the ferry, you have to go on this island called North Hero, and they finally just put a brewery between the ferry and Burlington. So I'm like, oh, great. So now I have to go drink before I get on the boat to go to New York State. So,
I don't see that as a bad thing.
Yeah. Vermont is wild. I did a personal little beercation 2 years ago. Just rented a room in some woman's condo. She's like, yeah, just try not to stumble in too drunk and make too much noise. No problem. I'm by myself. I'm probably not going to go balls to the wall and be doing shots and stuff. I'll be drinking craft beer everywhere. And there's Uber in Burlington. So, hey, I don't drink and drive. Nobody should drink and drive ever. That's a fact. So if you have Uber or taxis, take them. And it's literally, there's breweries across the street from each other. So
that's the best kind of environment, Yeah. I think any place that has, like, one of a great city that I've been to that I really liked, especially their beer scene and the proximity of breweries to each other, the density and the ease of getting to them all, is Chicago. Chicago is phenomenal for that. Like, it's so easy to go to one brewery, take a their subways, which are above ground, whatever. But it's easy to jump on a subway, go to the next brewery, and hop all over the place. And they have such a good beer scene going on there.
Yeah, I gotta get to Chicago. I know there's a couple of towns just outside Chicago, Maine, that make some fantastic brewing. Somebody had mentioned to me, I think they were called Mad Titan. They apparently make fantastic beer. I need to get back out to Calgary. I wasn't into craft beer last time I was in Calgary, but I got to get back out there. I saw there was because I saw you did kind of a hip hop playlist with 4 elements. But these guys are heavy metal guys who created a brewery in Calgary called Next Level.
Are they like a proper black metal brewery? Because I feel like we don't have any black metal breweries in Canada.
So I know they said they do Black Metal Tuesdays.
Nice.
On their website. They messaged, they're like, oh yeah, we ship our beer. So I messaged them. I'm like, how far east do you go? He's like, well, how far east are you? I'm like, Quebec. He's like, yeah, sorry, dude, we're not allowed. I'm like, okay, no. I'm like, but if I make it out there with my camera guy, we're interviewing you. He's the guy literally said, let me know the day. Just come and we'll do the interview. So, but they're the same thing. Like, they just went back into lockdown in Alberta as well. It's
kind of crazy.
Right? Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're going to get through it. I'm cautiously optimistic about all this. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. I got 2 little kids. My wife is considered high risk because she has asthma and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like you gotta do things for the greater good. You gotta not see your family for the greater good, so that next year everyone's going to be alive. So that it's just, I don't know, take one for the team.
Yeah.
It might be a long one, and I get it. There's people that are dealing with this differently than others, or people that I couldn't imagine living by myself right now and being in isolation alone. But I feel for those people. At the same time, it's we're all in it together, and we got to look at it with that kind of lens.
Yeah. It's just going on Facebook, you don't see it that way with some people's reactions to it. So.
Let's not get into that. That's that's a whole black hole waiting to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's fake, man. It's not even real. It's the government trying to control people.
No, I'll be honest, if it wasn't for me trying to promote this show, I would no longer be on Facebook. So
yeah,
I have a couple of friends who quit Facebook, and they're like, I've never been happier. So
yeah, this is a good time. I could probably be happy just not looking at Facebook anymore and having to defend people, but throw my opinion in, like, really, is this what you believe? You think that every single government internationally is synchronized on this plan to end small business?
It's an evil cabal.
Yeah, of course, right.
All right. Well, let's get past that. Where do you see High Gravity going next? What's next for you and the brand?
I'm still gonna keep working on the collaboration side of things. I would love to do, coming out of the pandemic when things calm down, I would love to do collaboration beers more and focus more on that stuff. I've thrown it out there to a couple breweries that I would love to design merch for breweries too. I think that'd be awesome too if they're looking for some extra fresh designs to kind of expand their brand and stuff like that. I actually am in talks with a couple breweries as well right now to start carrying High Gravity Supply apparel, like the shirt I'm wearing right now, in local breweries. So that's sort of where I would like things to go ideally. Still want to quadruple down on the collaborations. Anyone that is looking to collaborate and figure something out, if you have an artistic vision or something else you want to bring to life, or you want to, even more importantly, if you have a charity or something like that you want to get behind and we can help out, then I would love to do that stuff.
I may have to contact you. Well, I mean, it'd be a bit of a thing, but I don't know. Have you met the So Beer Boys, Southern Ontario Beer Boys?
Yeah.
So
Steve actually lives about 10 minutes away from me.
So I'm going to piggyback off them, and I also want to do a clubs for kids. Here in Quebec. So I may need to contact you about merch for that in the future. So.
Oh, let me know anytime. Yeah. I'd be more than happy to help. So
yeah, we'll definitely, and it's for charity, which is the more important part. It's not, it's not like, oh, I need to make 10 cents off every t-shirt sale you make. No, it's
yeah, that's one of the great, I think that's one of the great things about 2020 is that there's been so many great movements and charities that I've been able to get behind. And like, this isn't my full-time job. This is more of a passion side job for me. If I did this full time, that'd be outstanding. But in the meantime, if I can use this as a platform to help elevate voices and bring social issues to life and stuff like that, and give people a place to rally behind and help give movements a voice, and I'm more than happy to do that. And I'm really glad that I've discovered a passion for that stuff this year. So, and I don't think if we weren't in this lockdown, I don't even know if I would be in the same position as that. So. Yeah.
So there you go. With some negative came some positives. So
absolutely. I mean, life gives you lemons. Make lemonade, man. That's what it comes down to.
It's the same thing. Like I had eventually planned to contacting people like yourself and Beer Brit and Mary Bailey and everybody at some point in the future. It came a lot quicker than I was expecting. So
yeah,
I was the show's concept after we just passed our first year a few weeks ago. It would have been a second interview show where, let's say Tuesdays was an Instagrammer and then Fridays was a brewery, but now it's just Friday. There are future ideas coming for the show. Obviously, we have a future like yourself in this whole Instagram, Zoom, YouTube game. So as long as you keep on chugging on, just keep it going. So
absolutely. I mean, we have more time right now than ever to double down on stuff like this, right? So why not?
Yeah, it's just being able to see my friends and doing this stuff. So, but that'll come. So I'm not too worried about it. Awesome. I've got no other questions for you today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to let me speak with you. As All Beer Inside as well, we appreciate it. So let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at High Gravity Supply Co. On our website, highgravitysupplyco.com. If you are an artist or you're a creative person or you're in the beer industry and you want to do a collaborative project for fundraising, please hit me up, shoot me a DM. I'm open to all requests. And if we can make something work, I'd be more than happy to help.
Awesome. All of that will be in the show notes at the bottom of the YouTube page. As for us, on all social media, we're at All Beer Inside everywhere. allbeerinside.com is the website where we have our kind of whenever we get together and do a podcast, not safe for work edition, where our own views and opinions aren't truly our views and opinions on the podcast. It's for comedy, folks. And that's why we do it. As well, merch is on the way. I do have somebody working on t-shirts. They'll be at the bottom of the YouTube page and on the website as well. And at the end of all episodes, as I always say, drink craft, not crap.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
And cheers. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.